sadma Bando mui sabadhana mate Bando mui sabadhana mate Jara prasade bhai e bhavatoriya jai Krishna prapti hoy jaha hoite Krishna prapti hoy jaha hoite Krishna prapti hoy jaha hoite Guru mukha padma vakya chitete koriya aikya Gurumukha padma vakya chitete koriya aikya Gurumukha padma vakya chitete koriya aikya Arna kori ho mane asha Arna kori ho mane asha Arna kori ho mane asha Shri Guru charane rati aise utama gati Shri Guru charane rati se utama gati Shri Guru charane rati se utama gati Ye pasade pure sarva asha Pasade pure sarva asha Pasade pure sarva asha Chakudan dilo je janme Prabhu se Chakudan dilo je janme Prabhu se Divya Gyan Hriday Prakashita Divya Gyan Hriday Prakashita Prema Bhakti Jahate Abhida Vinasha Jate Prema bhakti jaha haite abhida vinasha jate Prema bhakti jaha haite abhida vinasha jate Vidigai jahara charito Vidigai jahara charito Vidigai jahara charito Guru Karuna Sindhu Adamajanara Bandhu Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adamajanara Bandhu Lokanath Lokera Jivana Srila Prabhupada Lokera Jivana Prabhu Karo Daya Deho More Pada Chaya Prabhu Karo Daya Deho More Pada Chaya Ebejaya Skashukti Bhuvana Ebejaya Skashukti Bhuvana Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adamajanara Bandhu Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adamajanara Bandhu Prabhu Karo Daya Deho More Pada Chaya Prabhu Karo Daya Deho More Pada Chaya Ebejas Kushukti Bhuvana Ebejas Kushukti Bhuvana Srila Prabhupada Patita Pavana Srila Prabhupada Patita Pavana Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya 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 Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada ki Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesa Shunyavadi Pashatya desatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya. Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai, Gauranitai, Jaya Gauranitai. Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaur Haribo.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradhari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamunatiravanachari Yashoda Nandana Prajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari. Jai Om Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Parivajacharya Stavtara Satta Shri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Om Jnana Timarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadhamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Canto 7, Chapter 7, Text 15. We'll probably also do Text 16. We will do Text 16. Text 15. Rishi Karunikastasya Pradadubhayam Ishvaraha Dharmasya Tattvam Jnanam Cha Mamapyudishya Nirmalam. Rishi Karunikastasya Pradadubhayam Ishvaraha Dharmasya Tattvam Jnanam Cha Mamupyudishya Nirmalam. Rishi Karunikastasya Pradadubhayam Ishvara Dharmasya Tattvam Jnanam Cha Mamupyadasya Nirmalam. Rishi Karunikastasya Pradadubhayam Ishvara Dharmasya Tattvam Jnanam Cha Mamapyudishya Nirmalam. Rishihi, the great sage Narada Muni. Karunakaha, naturally very affectionate or merciful to the fallen souls. Tasya, to her, Pradat, gave instructions. Ubhayam, both. Ishvara, a powerful controller who can do whatever he likes. Narada Muni. Dharmasya, of religion. Tattvam, the truth. Jnanam, knowledge. Cha, and. Mam, me. Api, especially. Udishya, indicating. Nirmalam, without material contamination. Translation: Narada Muni delivered his instructions both to me, who was within the womb, and to my mother, who was engaged in rendering him service. Because he is naturally extremely kind to the fallen souls, being in a transcendental position, he gave instructions on religion and transcendental knowledge. These instructions were free from all material contamination. Purport. Here it is said, Dharmasya tattvam jnanam cha nirmalam. The word nirmalam refers to spotless dharma, spotless religion, or in other words, Bhagavat Dharma. Ordinary ritualistic activities constitute contaminated religion, by which one benefits by developing material wealth and prosperity. But uncontaminated, pure religion consists of understanding one's relationship with God and acting accordingly, thus fulfilling the highest mission of life and returning home back to Godhead. Prahlad Maharaj advised that one elevate oneself to the standard of Bhagavat Dharma from the very beginning of life. Komaram acharet pragyo dharman bhagavatan iha. The Lord himself also speaks of pure, uncontaminated religion when he says, Sarva dharman parityaja mamekam sharanam vraja. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. One must understand one's relationship with God and then act accordingly. This is Bhagavat Dharma. Bhagavat Dharma means Bhakti Yoga. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Janayatyasyu Vairagyam Jnanam Cha Yadahaitukam. By rendering devotional service unto the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, one immediately acquires causeless knowledge and detachment from the world. To be situated on the platform of pure religion, one should perform Bhakti Yoga in relationship with Krishna, Vasudeva. So, Prahlad's continuing his answer to his friend's question about, like, how did you learn all this stuff? So now he's continuing his answer. So Narada Muni just protected Hiranyakashipu's wife, Kayadu, from being taken, or at least the embryo in the womb, or at least Kayadu's child, Prahlad, from being killed by taking Kayadu. Well, first of all, just pacifying the demigod, saying, "Whoa, hold on, wait a minute. The child in that womb is actually a pure devotee. Don't mess with her or him. I'll take care of it." So then he ended up taking Kayadu to his ashram and instructing Kayadu and then also Prahlad about transcendental knowledge. So here, Narada Muni is described as karunikaha, very affectionate and merciful to the fallen souls. So, what makes Narada Muni so affectionate and merciful is that he gives Bhakti Yoga and Bhakti Jnana, transcendental knowledge, and Bhagavat Dharma, how to practice religion. And he gives it in a very pure way. He himself is pure, and he's presenting the pure thing. So he doesn't present religion in such a way that it just, kind of attracts a lot of people to follow because they might get wealth and prosperity. It's the contaminated religion. But he gives the pure, uncontaminated religion by which one can ultimately realize one's relationship with Krishna. That's kind of why he's considered to be most merciful. It depends. It's interesting because here Prahlad is in the womb and he's hearing these instructions, but most of the time when babies are in the womb, or just babies in general, they don't understand language so well, or at all. But here we're going to see that Prahlad, he understood everything that Narada Muni was saying when he was instructing his mother in Bhagavad Dharma. So the point here is that depending on on the source from which, the holy name or Krishna Katha or something is coming from, that will determine how much benefit you'll get. So if you're hearing the holy name from a really pure source, then you're going to get a greater benefit. And if you hear the holy name from not such a pure source, the benefit you get might not be as great. So here Narada Muni's, topmost devotee. So he's naturally, when he speaks the holy name, it has a great impact on Prahlad, and therefore he's able to become he's able to benefit extremely and ultimately become perfected. So Narada, Mother Danakeli, when she gives class, she always likes to quote this one verse from the Bhagavatam, the 4th canto, chapter 20, text 25, about how when pure devotees speak, their words are actually touching the saffron mercy particles that are strewn about the lotus feet of the Lord. Because, around the lotus feet of the Lord, there's all these saffron mercy particles, and because the devotees, they take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, then naturally whatever they speak, even though it might look like just normal talking, it's actually coming in contact with those mercy particles. So when the pure devotees speak, you're getting those saffron mercy particles, which, when you hear those, that's actually the thing that can help you realize your eternal relationship with Krishna. So that's the effect of actually hearing from a pure source, is that you can realize your relationship with Krishna. And that's why Prabhupada oftentimes, when he was with his disciples and he was speaking Hindi or Bengali to some other group of people, but his American disciples were there, he would oftentimes have his American disciples still sit and hear the discourse, even though they didn't understand a single word that was being said, but just because Prabhupada understood the value of hearing from a pure source. So then he was saying it's still beneficial for them to hear it even if they don't understand it. So that's why also when, generally when people are pregnant, they always like to read the Bhagavatam or still chant nicely and try to have a lot of spiritual sound vibrations going on, because that has an effect on the child in the womb, even though the child might not understand. And also I was hearing that Jagai and Madai, when the reason they became purified was because of hearing the pure holy name. Like they used to hang out outside of Srivas Sangam, and they used to sometimes hear all this wild kirtan going on in the house of Srivas. And then through that hearing or whatever, even though they didn't understand what was going on, they still got tremendously purified because it came from such a pure source. So that's like Shuddhanam, and then you can still get purified if you're hearing Namabhas, the holy name coming from one who's not exactly so pure yet, but who's trying to become pure. Or there's different kinds of Namabhas. If one is just jokingly chant Hare Krishna, or derisively chanting it, or chanting it meaning something else. All these are still ways in which one can become purified if they're hearing it from a source like that. And they can ultimately, lead to higher realizations. But if you hear from a source that's not pure, like from Namaparad or something, then that can actually have the reverse effect. It can actually be not beneficial to hear that. So that's why in the Padma Purana we hear a verse that says that if you hear the holy name from somebody who's like a big offender or Mayavadi or like an impersonalist or something, that it's actually like milk that has been touched by the lips of a serpent. So it actually contaminates you more. So you really have to be careful in who you hear from, and try to hear from as pure of a source as possible. So that's why we always recommend hearing from Prabhupada, because Prabhupada's, we all agree that he's like a super pure Uttama Bhakta devotee. So we hear from him, even if we don't always understand what's going on, we still get very much purified just through that sound vibration. So another thing here, that's another description of Narada Muni, is that he's described as Ishvara. He gets to do whatever he wants. So the name Narada, Da means to go, and then Nara means man. So Narada's name means the man who goes, the man who travels. That's the name of Narada. So, of course, we all might remember the history of why he travels so much. Well, one, because he likes to, I'm sure. He likes to travel and preach. It's kind of like what he is into. But he also has to, because he got cursed. He got cursed by Daksha because Narada Muni, he convinced all of two groups of Daksha's sons to give up the program of being a Prajapati and populating the world. And he convinced them to take sannyas and just pursue self-realization. And then Daksha got all upset with Narada Muni, and he said, all right, I curse you that you can't stay in one place for more than 3 days. So that's why he's always traveling. But then this poses a question for this part of the Bhagavatam. Narada Muni, he's cursed. He can't travel anywhere he can't stay anywhere for more than 3 days. But there's a situation going on right now where Narada Muni is seemingly in one place for a substantial amount of time. Because, I remember the story of how, Prahlad got conceived. Hiranyakashipu was meditating or whatever. He's trying to perform austerities, and then I think it was Narada Muni or whatever. He took the form of a bird, and he kept interrupting Hiranyakashipu's meditation by saying, Narayan, 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 Narayan. There's a bird who kept saying Narayan, and that kind of like made Hiranyakashipu all upset and was constantly thinking, oh, Narayan, because that was his enemy. So he had this Narayan consciousness, and then so I guess because of whatever, he was being frustrated or whatever, he gave up his meditation temporarily to go be with his wife, Kayadu, and in the course of their interaction, they ended up conceiving a child, and because Hiranyakashipu was thinking of Narayan, he conceived Prahlad, who's a pure devotee. So then, okay, after that was all done, Hiranyakashipu was like, all right, I'm going to go back to my meditation. And then he went back to his meditation for 10,000 years. 10,000 years of meditation Hiranyakashipu was doing. So this poses a little bit of an issue, because if Hiranyakashipu is away for 10,000 years, and right when Hiranyakashipu goes away, that's when the demons come in, or demigods come in, and kind of take over while Hiranyakashipu is gone. And then it's described earlier in the previous verses that Narada Muni kind of shelters Kayadu in his ashram for the period of time that Hiranyakashipu is away. So Kayadu could be in Narada Muni's ashram for a really long time, up to 10,000 years. So two questions are posed by this. How could and it was described that Kayadu was serving Narada Muni this whole time in previous verses. So the question is, first of all, how could Narada Muni stay in one place for more than 3 days when he's got this curse? And second, Prahlad is only five years old when, we hear that Prahlad is 5 years old when Hiranyakashipu comes back. Well, not exactly like that, but Kayadu was conceived Prahlad, and then Hiranyakashipu has been away for 10,000 years. So how is it that Prahlad was only 5 when Hiranyakashipu was away for 10,000 years? Everyone understand the question and the issue? Do you know the answer to this dilemma? Is the time different? So that's one potential explanation, that maybe Hiranyakashipu went somewhere where there's a different scale of time going on. So he was away in some area where it's 10,000 years, but really back where he conceived Prahlad, time was much shorter. So that's one explanation, potential explanation. I don't think that's right, but that's one explanation. Radha Krishna. Yeah, so that's the answer to one of the questions, yes. So that's the answer to one of the questions in the previous verse. Kayadu said that he asked, she was very much interested in the protection of her child. So then she requested Narada Muni, if, because she was serving him, that if her embryo could not be born until Hiranyakashipu comes back. So then she was given that benediction where Prahlad can kind of stay in the womb for a really long time. So that answers one of the questions. But then what about the other question about Narada Muni staying in one place for more than 3 days?
$3 days of who?
3 days of who?
Could be 3 days of Lord Brahma. So that's one thought. Another thing is he could speak for 2 days and almost 3 days.
And then go somewhere and then come right back.
Like renewing your visa and then come back. That's another idea.
Okay. So these are all good potential answers. And then there's also a third way of answering this question.
You
have another way, okay.
Narada Muni is transcendental, so he's kind of like beyond perhaps the curse.
You're right, he is transcendental. He still follows the curse, though. I mean, he may be beyond it in a sense, but nevertheless, he still follows it. It's like, aren't there examples of other like Ram being told to do something by his father? He's beyond it. He didn't have to go to the forest and spend 14 years in exile. He could have just taken over the kingdom and ignored, his father's, telling him to go to the forest. But he followed it because that was the proper thing to do. So similarly, Narada Muni, he might be beyond certain things like this, but he's still going to follow it. So I don't know if that last answer is exactly right. But he is transcendental. So then there's a whole story that goes behind how Narada Muni is able to stay in one place more than 3 days. So his ashram is located in Narada Kund in Vrindavan. So in Narada Kund, anyway, there's a whole history there. But so anyway, one day, Narada Muni was hanging out with his brother Shiva. They're both sons of Lord Brahma, and he was asking Lord Shiva, I've seen pretty much all of the incarnations, forms of Krishna. I've seen them pretty much all, because I've traveled everywhere, I've been everywhere. I've seen Krishna as a baby, I've seen Krishna playing with the cows, I've seen, all kinds of forms of Krishna. But there's one form of Krishna, or one aspect of Krishna that I did not see yet. And this aspect of Krishna is, I've not seen Radha in Krishna's intimate pastimes. So I've not seen them. So Lord Shiva, could you help me? I want to see these pastimes between Radha and Krishna. Could you please help me to see these pastimes? So Lord Shiva said, well, I can't even do that. How could I help you see Radha and Krishna's intimate pastimes when I myself, I can't even do that. So Lord Shiva recommended for his brother, Narada Muni, to go, he gave him like some kind of mantra, and he said, go to Vrindavan, and then chant this mantra, and then pray to Vrinda Devi that, for your request of wanting to see Radha and Krishna's intimate pastimes, she might be able to help you. So then Narada Muni did that. He went to Vrindavan, and he started chanting the mantra, praying to Vrinda Devi. And then one day he came across Vrinda Devi, who was by the Yamuna. She was there with her assistants, and they were kind of arranging Radha and Krishna's nocturnal pastimes for that night. And Narada Muni came up to Vrinda Devi and asked, hey, can I see Radha and Krishna's intimate pastimes? And Vrinda Devi, first she said, I don't know if that's going to be possible, because first you have to have like the spontaneous devotional like attraction for them, and you have to have this like really, really intense longing for them, and you have to follow under the patronage of one of the Vrajavasis, the gopis. So she's like, even Brahma and Shiva can't even do this. So I don't know if this is going to be possible. So then Narada Muni kind of was a little sad from hearing that. He was thinking, oh man. But Vrinda Devi, seeing how Narada Muni was kind of sad after kind of being told no, she took compassion on him, and she said, okay, if you want to do this, then here's what you have to do. You have to go meditate, perform austerities. Like she gave him a process to follow. Perform austerities under some tree, and by following this, you'll maybe develop the necessary qualifications to do what you want to do. So then Narada Muni did that, and he did it with such like single-mindedness, intense focus, because Narada Muni, he got these mantras. He's done that before. He's got this really intense meditation, single-mindedness on something if he wants to, because that's actually how Narada Muni achieved perfection. He got a mantra from the Bhaktivedantas, and he just meditated on this mantra, and through meditating on this mantra, he attained perfection. So then he used that same kind of ability that he had, meditating on a mantra, and he applied it to following Vrinda Devi's instruction. And so he was doing this for some time. And then one day, Vrinda Devi walked across the place where Narada Muni was doing his bhajan. And then Narada Muni, seeing Vrinda Devi, he fell at her feet and just begged her, may I please see Radha and Krishna? Can you please help me to see them? And he said it in a very very, very nice mood. And he was surrendering to Vrinda Devi. So then Vrinda Devi thought, yes, this is nice. You're getting better. This is a proper, closer to the proper mood. But she was like, but there's still one problem. You got this male body. This male body. It's not exactly going to allow you to do what you want to do. So then Vrinda Devi told him, of course, very similar to the Arjuna pastime that we heard on the camping trip, Arjuniya pastime. But so then Vrinda Devi told him, okay, you go bathe in Kusuma Sarovara, and then anyway, so then he did, and when he did, he bathed, and then he came out as Naradi Gopi. Yes, so there's Arjuniya Gopi, and then now there's Naradi Gopi. Everyone wants to become a Gopi, pretty much. All the great personalities we hear about. So then Naradi is now a Gopi. So then now he has the body and the proper mood, more or less, to see Radha and Krishna's intimate pastimes. So then finally Vrinda Devi takes him to go see Radha and Krishna, and Naradi, Gopi sees Radha and Krishna, and they're doing their pastimes. They were, swinging, they were bathing, they were playing dice and things. So Narada Muni was in total ecstasy. But then Krishna recognized Naradi Gopi as Narada. And Krishna, he had a different idea for Narada. He had some service for Narada to do. So Krishna told Naradi Gopi, who's actually Narada, okay, it's nice to see you, but I have a service for you. Could you go? I want you to go to Narada Kund or whatever, and I want you to write the Bhakti Sutras, the Narada Bhakti what is it the name? Narada Bhakti Sutras and the Narada Pancharatra. I want you to write those books. So then Narada Muni said, how can I do that? I got a curse that I can't stay in one place for more than 3 days. And if I'm going to write these literatures, I'm going to have to stay in one place for more than 3 days. Which means that Narada Muni was willing to follow the curse, even after getting an instruction from Krishna to stay in one place and write these books. So then Krishna said, well, don't worry about that. Narada Kund, it's in the spiritual world. So curses only apply in the material world. Curses don't apply in the spiritual world. So you can stay in Narada Kund as long as you need to. So then Narada's like, oh, okay, all right. So then he can stay at Narada Kund for longer, and that curse doesn't apply. So in fact, it's described that Narada eternally resides in Narada Kund. So he can do that, and I guess also travel somehow. So that's how Narada Muni could be staying here in one place. That's what I heard, from Bir Krishna Maharaj. He said that Narada Muni's ashram is in Narada Kund. That's what I heard. Okay, so then we'll go to the next verse. We'll do this one, hopefully quickly, because it's 8:02. Text 16. Tattu kalasya dirghadvat shritvan matus tirodhade rishina nugritam mam hitam mam nadunapya jahat smriti. Does anyone have any questions from the previous verse before we go on to the next one? Anything they'd like to add? Okay, so we'll go on to the next verse. Text 16. Because of the long duration of time that has passed, and because of her being a woman and therefore less intelligent, my mother has forgotten all those instructions. But the great sage Narada blessed me, and therefore I could not forget them. Purport. In Bhagavad Gita 9:32, the Lord says, Mam hi parta vyapashritya ye pi syu papayona yaha striyo vaishyas tata shudras te pi yanti param gatim. O son of Pritha, those who take shelter in me, though they be low-born women, vaishyas, or merchants, or shudras, workers, can approach the supreme destination. The word papayoni refers to those who are less than shudras. But even though a woman may not be papayoni, because of being less intelligent, she sometimes forgets devotional instructions. For those who are strong enough, however, there is no question of forgetting. Women are generally attached to material enjoyment, and because of this tendency, they sometimes forget devotional instructions. But if even a woman practices devotional service strictly, according to the rules and regulations, the statement by the Lord himself that she can return to Godhead, te pi yanti param gatim, is not at all astonishing. One must take shelter of the Lord and rigidly follow the rules and regulations. Then, regardless of what one is, one will return home back to Godhead. Prahlad Maharaj's mother was more concerned with protecting the child in the womb and was very anxious to see her husband return. Therefore, she could not consider very seriously the sublime instructions of Narada Muni. So here the verse is saying that Prahlad, he was able to remember the instructions from Narada because he got the mercy of Narada, and therefore he was able to remember these devotional instructions. But his mother forgot them, and the reason she forgot them there's two reasons why she forgot them. One reason she forgot them was because, she was kind of attached to material enjoyment, more attached to material enjoyment. And generally, if you're very attached to material enjoyment, when you hear devotional instructions, they don't always stick. It's like if you're really into material enjoyment, but at the same time you're hearing devotional instructions, it's like you're trying to start a fire with one hand, but you're pouring water on it with the other hand. So it doesn't work. It doesn't stick, and you forget the devotional instructions pretty quickly. So that's one. So that's why also Kunti said that for one to be able to really take up devotional service, they have to be materially exhausted to be able to take it up properly. So that was one reason, and then another reason was because she was a little distracted. I mean, you could imagine her situation. Here she was the wife of the greatest demon, and her husband goes off, performs some crazy austerities, and here she is all alone with, a child in her womb, and the demigods come and just destroy everything, and here she is without hardly any family or friends or anybody, and her husband's gone, and she's like without protection, at least at that time. So she's got a lot on her mind, and she's also really, she's attached to Hiranyakashipu. She was actually looking forward to him coming back. So because she was attached to Hiranyakashipu, she was looking forward to him coming back. She was kind of in a difficult situation. Although she did, it was said that she, without fear, she served Narada Muni and she was protected in Narada Muni's ashram. But still, she was anxious for her husband to come back. So that's generally the case. Like if somebody is super, super rich and powerful and, can provide a lot of security, especially like financial security and protection, especially women, they get very attached to that situation, that they'll want to be with that person who can provide these things, even if they might not be the most moral or righteous person. They're very much into that sense of security, financial security, and that kind of thing. And this is, this idea is pretty vividly, depicted in the whole history of the Ramayana. Ravana, he was, Hiranyakashipu, Ravana, they're like the same person, really. But Ravana was in a similar situation. Ravana was this like head honcho, and he had all this power and wealth and everything, and he pretty much was able to get any girl that he wanted. It was described that he had like a palace that was 4 miles wide and 8 miles long, and he was, his opulence that he had was just, it was like ridiculously insane. His place was like better than it was like the heavenly planets. It was like total paradise. And it was described that in his palace he had literally thousands of women, beautiful women, not just any women, but very, very beautiful women who were either like the daughters of Gandharvas or daughters of great rishis, or just beautiful women, like the best imaginable. So pretty much Ravana was able to get any woman that he wanted, except for one. Well, actually, there were 2 incidences where Ravana kind of got shot down. So here Kayadu was pretty much attracted to Hiranyakashipu, and it's hard to blame her. But there were like two incidences in which a woman kind of rejected Ravana's request to be his wife and be with him. Although pretty much every other woman that he's ever encountered, if he ever said that, I want you to be my wife, immediately they would say yes, because that means so much material enjoyment, nice position. So then the whole idea of, the Ramayana, it starts with, at the very beginning of the Ramayana, Ravana, he's on this conquest. He's out on his conquest with his Rakshasa buddies, and he flies over the Himalayas, and when he flew over the Himalayas, he saw this beautiful girl who was doing this crazy meditation, this intense meditation. So naturally this attracted Ravana to want to go and see who this beautiful girl was in the middle of the Himalayas performing these austerities. So then Ravana approached this beautiful girl who was doing austerities, and he just very obnoxiously almost kind of interrupted her meditation and said, "Oh, beautiful maiden, what are you doing here? What are you doing here performing asceticism in these mountains? Who do you belong to? Who are you? Who do you belong to? Who's your husband or father or whatever?" So then this girl's name was Vedavati. And Vedavati just kind of opened her eyes slowly, and then she very respectfully answered Ravana's questions, said, "My name is Vedavati. I'm the daughter of a great sage who is the son of Brihaspati, and I'm here performing austerities." She said that pretty much so many demigods and great personalities, they want my hand in marriage, but I'm here performing austerities because the only one who could be my husband is Vishnu. So then when Ravana heard this, he was like, "Oh, my sworn enemy." So then he was even more determined to get Vedavati as his own, because she was super beautiful. Here she was meditating in the Himalayas for like thousands of years, and even though she was meditating for such a long time, she didn't show any signs of fatigue, or she didn't lose any of her beauty by doing these austerities. She was still really, really beautiful. So then Vedavati said this, and then Ravana said, "What do you meditate? This austerities and stuff, it's for old people. Here you are, you're this young, beautiful girl. You should come and enjoy with me. Please be my wife. I'll take you to my super amazing kingdom, which I stole from the demigods, and we can enjoy there. Come with me." And then Vedavati was just like, "Heck no." And then she said that you better leave before the Lord starts. You might incite the Lord's anger, so you better leave now, otherwise it could get nasty. And then Ravana was even more like attracted to that, because it's like harder to get such a, she's beautiful and she's saying no, and Ravana really likes this high-spiritedness in women because it makes it more challenging, that much more attractive for him. So then he just started to forcibly grab Vedavati's hair and basically like forced, just tried to get her forcibly. And then Vedavati she just started chanting the Sanskrit mantra, and she like pretty much with her hand or whatever, she cut off her own hair, so that Ravana was grabbing her hair, and then she cut off her own hair so that she could become free from Ravana's grip. And then she said, "Whoa, you just you defiled me, and this is not right, and I'm going to take birth again as the daughter of a pious man, and you and your whole kingdom is going to be destroyed," that kind of thing. So then anyway, Vedavati ended up kind of incinerating herself. She kind of committed suicide from being defiled by Ravana. And then she was born again as Sita. So then this Vedavati became Sita, and then Ravana, after Ravana kind of captured Sita, he tried to do the same thing with Sita. He tried to capture Sita, get Sita to be his wife, his consort, and he used to keep trying every day when Sita was captive. He tried every day to get Sita to be with him. And he was saying he's pretty charming, handsome guy. No other woman could resist this. He was charming. He told her that you were the, I believe that Lord Brahma, he must have retired after creating you, seeing the perfection of his creation, and basically trying to woo her in so many different ways. Here I am. I'm the most powerful person there is. You can come live with me in my wonderful opulent kingdom. Please be with me. And then every time Sita was just like, she had her own like snappy responses to all of this. She was not having it at all. She was basically calling him a dog who's in the face of Ram and Lakshman. You're like a dog, and then Ram and Lakshman are like the lion. You're like a dog. And she said that you better make friends with Ram quickly, otherwise you're gonna die, or you're gonna, your whole kingdom's gonna be, get destroyed. And then she said that, I'm powerful enough that I could kill you right now if I wanted to. That through my chastity and my austerities and everything, my merits that I got from all the austerities that I did, I could just burn you to ashes right now. It's not hard for me to do. But I don't have my Lord's order to do that. And plus, I don't want to waste my credits on, like a dog like you. So that was like a huge insult to Ravana. So then Ravana was just like, all right, you got 1 year. If you don't change your mind in 1 year, I'm going to slice you up and you're going to be my breakfast. So anyway, so then it takes a very, very strong personality to be able to not be attached to material enjoyment, material wealth, so-called secure position, material world. And Sita is a good example of one who can stand up for herself, and so it's encouraging for us. We can try to learn that. So, any questions or thoughts on any of this? Anyone like to add anything? Manoj.
What would be some good responses for if we encountered with, say, some newcomers who came across such a message that woman is less intelligent? So what would be some good responses to?
Yeah, people don't like to hear that nowadays, that's for sure.
Because myself, I came across such a situation and it was kind of difficult to...
Recently?
Huh?
Recently?
Yeah, maybe like 4 or 5 months ago. And
oh, really?
yeah.
Yeah, that was one of my first experiences with Krishna consciousness, actually, because I had a friend in high school who... I read the Bhagavad Gita and Science of Self-Realization in high school and other books, and I was so into it that I tried to convince my best friend, you have to read these books, man, they're so good. And then so I gave him the Bhagavad, I went online, I bought him a Bhagavad Gita and a Science of Self-Realization, and then he started reading the Bhagavad Gita because I said, you have to read this is a really good book, and I'm buying this just for you, man, so you really have to read it. So anyway, he read the first 40 pages of the Bhagavad Gita, and he said that, wow, these are the 40 most interesting pages I've ever read in my life. He was really into it. And then he read the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. And then in the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, there's this verse where, the same verse quoted here in the purport. Oh, no, maybe not this verse, but there's another verse in the Gita about women becoming polluted. Arjuna is making the argument that I don't know if I should kill all these people because then women won't be protected by their husbands and they'll become polluted and they'll have unwanted progeny and like that. So then in the purport, Prabhupada says that women are less intelligent than men. So then my friend came up to me, we were in high school, I remember it was my junior year. He came up to me and he had the Bhagavad Gita and he said, "Hey, I got a question for you." He opened up to the verse and he said, "All right." So he read it, and then he's like, "Okay, see, it says women are less intelligent than men. Can you explain this for me?" And then I was like super new. I didn't have so much devotee association at that time, and I didn't really know how to answer it. So I just said, "I don't know how to answer that." Because our experience was that women were just as much, if not even more intelligent than men in so many ways. So it didn't make sense to us how this could be true. Later, after meeting devotees and talking about this some more, I kind of heard some better explanations of this. One is first you just have to start with defining what is intelligence. So the way the Vedas describe intelligence is the ability to distinguish matter from spirit. So you have to start with that basic understanding of what is intelligence. It doesn't mean that women are not capable of becoming like a high court judge or a position in society which requires one to be very intellectual or anything. It doesn't necessarily mean that. It means more like ability to distinguish matter from spirit. So that's the basis. So then now how do we establish that women are generally not able to distinguish matter from spirit as easily as men are? So then you can go into an explanation for that. So Bhakti Vidyapurna Maharaj, he gives a pretty good explanation, which I thought was very good. You want to add something?
Oh, I'm sorry. You weren't finished.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, finished. I'll say something and then you can add to it.
Okay. Basically, he was saying that... Oh, you're...
Anyway, I'll just finish Bhakti Vidyapurna Maharaj's explanation of this, which is really good, which Donna Kaylee herself really liked. She was saying that she never really got a satisfying answer to that question for so many years in her practicing of Krishna consciousness. Because generally we hear that you're not this body, that you're just describing the nature of women or men. So if you're identifying yourself as a woman, and you're being offended by saying that women are less intelligent than men, well, that's just because you're identifying that way. You wouldn't be all upset if you if you started speaking poorly of a dog's nature, or you're just like saying, well, a dog's nature is to bark. You wouldn't be all upset from saying, oh, a dog's nature is to bark. Because you're not identifying as the dog. But if you start to identify as something and then that something gets called something which is not as good, anyway, so we hear explanations like that. And then other explanations too. But when Mother Donna Kaylee heard this explanation from Bhakti Vidyapurna Maharaj, she was particularly, she found it most satisfying. So then so the way it's described is that intelligence is the way the man's intelligence works and the women's intelligence works is different. And this can be shown in, recently they've done these scans of the brain. These doctors, they take these scans where they can show the blood flow in the brain. And whenever and there's two halves of the brain, and then one half is more for the analytical side. It's a little cold and hard, and but it's it's really analytical. And then the other side has to deal with more emotions and feelings and that kind of thing. So when they did these scans of male and female brains, they found out that the men's brains, they work very differently than the women's brains. So then when men are doing something, they only use one half of their brain at any given time. So either their left half is working, or their right half is working, or it's very compartmentalized in the man's body. But whenever female is doing something, anything she's doing, her whole brain is lit up the whole time. So the explanation is that. There's strengths and weaknesses to this too, on both sides. It's not that one is better than the other, but that it's just they're different ways of thinking. So the women, when they're thinking about something, their intellect, their intelligence is always going to be hampered by the emotions and feelings and, like the part of the half of the, the intelligence or whatever that has to do with those kind of things. And those kind of things actually kind of sometimes color your vision of things because you get worked up in emotions and feelings and you have a hard time seeing things for what it actually is. But whereas men, if they're trained properly, quote, if they're really trained properly from like 5 and, they're trained properly, they can actually be trained to like stay on like the analytical side so that they can be able to really study things without being hampered by emotions and other things, so that they can have a very clear, much clearer understanding of things in general, like, especially the difference between matter and spirit, if you're trained properly. Because when you're like attached emotionally to things, like we said, material enjoyment kind of inhibits your ability to take devotional instruction sometimes. So men, if they're trained properly, they're able to stay. They're able to stay on that one side, which is more analytical. But the problem though is that if you're not trained properly, the men, they can end up going to the more emotional side, and then when men go to the more emotional side, they start doing really dumb things. Like, I don't know if you've noticed, like, whenever like men are doing something and then a woman happens to walk into the room, men immediately start behaving completely ridiculous, like idiots. They'll trip over themselves and they'll do stupid things to try to impress the woman or something. So that's an example of men's intelligence kind of swaying over to the more emotional side. And then when the men's intelligence sways over to the emotional side, his analytical ability kind of turns off. So he can't think properly. So it's a very, very big disadvantage for men. But whereas women, they're actually very good at dealing with emotions and feelings and things, that even when there is like an emotionally arousing situation, their intelligence isn't completely shut off. So they can actually function and navigate in such an environment very well. That's actually why women are very good at dealing with kids, because kids are very emotional by nature. Their intellect hasn't really developed that much, or their analytical side. So then women are able to like just pick up on that, relate with it, and still have their intellectual side to be able to, train nicely and know what to do properly. That's why it's nice when, people get married, because if a man, they can help each other. Because if a man ends up going too far on one side to the more emotional side, the woman can relate with that, understand that emotional side, and help, get the man back on course by staying on the more analytical side. And then, anyway, so that's why it's like, I found that to be a really good explanation for why it's said here that women are less intelligent than men. It's simply because their intelligence is like always hampered by emotions and feelings and things. Of course, Mikey might have another explanation.
It actually adds to what you're saying on the cultural side, that in Vedic culture, and especially from where Prabhupada's coming from, traditionally women aren't trained in such a way that they have the ability to understand Shastra as well as the men can. So it's not necessarily that inherently, if they're both in equal circumstances, that the women are definitely less intelligent. It's just that in Vedic culture, it was just by the social structure that women were not in the position to develop their intelligence for understanding Shastra. So
you're saying because of the culture was such that women,
yeah,
you're saying that women have just as much ability to understand Shastra as men do, but because of the culture, they weren't able to do so.
They'll get married, and that's their husband's the guru. That's like the system. Like they don't go to the Gurukul, they stay at home and learn how to do, that type of service. And then the husband, from 5 to 25, he learns all the Shastra, and then he gets married, and the woman is like, however old, I don't know, 16, 11, whatever. And she learns from the husband basically, and that's just how the culture was set up. And I guess you could say that also kind of is coming from the fact that naturally women have that mindset, and men maybe have that mindset. But if men aren't trained up properly, they might as well just be on the same plane, or less even. So it's not like a black and white thing. There's so many levels to it.
That cultural point is there. I don't know if that has anything to do with the intelligence. Perhaps the culture is set up in such a way that it's based on how the intelligence of the men work, how the intelligence of the women work, and the Vedic culture is the best system in which they can both progress in Krishna consciousness most effectively. So that's there. Radhakrishna Prabhu looks like he has a...
No,
as a-
I don't, it's different.
Oh, it's a different question.
Prabhu, it's like this description that you explained about, like left brain, right brain, and combination of it. My confusion is that we're not Gyanis, we are Bhaktas, right? And in Gyan tradition, I would like accept that like explanation why that function of brain in case of women is not helpful. But for our tradition, those like sentiments, it's like those emotions, play a major role, right? And even if you say that Gyan is also important, otherwise you would be sentimental, then even in that case, it's like a mixture of intelligence and emotions would act better than pure intelligence or pure emotion, right? So
Right.
that's
Ultimately,
my
we're trying
question.
to cultivate spiritual emotions. That's the point of the bhakti process, is to cultivate spiritual emotions. And if you don't have the jnana, sambandha, to be able to understand what's what, then those emotions could very well just be material emotions, which actually inhibit your ability to understand devotional instructions. But it is true that, I've heard that you can use your emotions and feelings and sentiments, even if they are materially contaminated, if they're directed towards wanting to please Krishna. That's why a lot of times women are generally more, their attendance is greater, like in churches and religious ceremonies and things, because they have feelings and they can apply those feelings. Everybody has feelings, but their feelings are perhaps more intense, and they're able to apply those more intense feelings in their religious practices. And then there's a benefit to doing that, because that's ultimately the goal, is to be able to chant with feeling. So right now our feelings are materially contaminated, so our goal is to purify that. But at least if we, because generally, like when we were beginning to chant, we were advised that we should chant with feeling. And then the question is raised, but what if I don't have any feeling? How can I chant with feeling? And then I remember Ramapad Maharaj, he said that, well, take that as the feeling, the feeling that I have no feeling, but I'm still going to chant anyway. It's not a pure feeling or anything, but it's still some kind of feeling that you're using to try to chant the holy name. So then through trying to chant the holy name with some kind of feeling, it helps you, even if it's not pure feelings yet. So you're right. So that's an advantage that women might have when they're practicing, trying to take up devotional service, is that they might have more of like a understanding and connection with that realm, and they can use that.
I think that there's a distinction. The spiritual emotions are actually of the soul. So it's not necessarily, you can't take a brain scan. Generally, the emotions anyone's experiencing in the material world are more or less material. The mind and the intelligence of the false ego are so
That's right,
predominating
yeah.
in the consciousness.
That's right.
It's not necessarily that being more emotional means you're going to be able to connect better to Krishna. And as far as spiritual emotions interrupting, why shouldn't we use the emotions? That's coming, from a different platform, so that one can still maintain intelligence discrimination while still experiencing a spiritual emotion, because it's not coming from the brain, it's not coming from the mind, but it's coming from the soul's relationship with Krishna.
Well, you can, I certainly what you're saying about the brain's idea of having emotions, or they're material emotions, so they don't really have anything to do with devotional service or spiritual things in any way. But it's something that you can, it's like a dovetailing kind of a thing. You have a certain propensity and certain thing that you can actually use in service to Krishna. It's not going to be pure, but it's something that you can use. And for some, it might be helpful. Like that's why, like, you see women are more, like, they attend more religious functions, of course. Maybe not these kind of religious functions, but it's an asset in a certain way because, you know, they can use that to help them get closer to Krishna. It's not that is, like you said, it's that is the thing that you're going to use which will get you to Krishna necessarily, but it might help. So it's just, you know, for some it might be using this way, for some it might be using this way, and you just take whatever you have and then you try to get closer to Krishna. I don't know. I think I'd have to hear what you said again to really respond better. I forgot all the little details. You don't agree?
Is the question which is more favorable for taking up spiritual life?
I'm not saying one is more favorable or not. I'm saying that if you have, and if you're very adept at emotions and feelings and things, you can use those in trying to develop Krishna consciousness, and then sometimes it can help you. It's not to say that it's more favorable. I didn't say that. So, okay. Anything else? Okay. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
So we actually already have it.